In the last 3 days, we looked into the book Jesus Christ, Messiah or Myth, which I published last year as my first book. And since then, I published a number of books which are available for free as ebooks in all the ebook stores. Now we'll move into the chapter 4 of the book Jesus Christ, Messiah or Myth. In this, now we'll move on to the next chapter, which is evaluating the New Testament for historicity, or the incidents of the New Testament, or the historical, or the characters historical. So what you're going to do is look into the writings and what do they say about the writings, internal as well as external evidence. The internal evidence has been sufficiently discussed in the previous chapters, including Luke chapter 3, where it talks about the historical setting, just repeating the Roman Empire, Roman Judea, Palestine, which is governed by Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor, and Jerusalem religious authorities were there, Annas and Caiaphas, and the political leaders were the children of Herod the Great. And there was a tetrarchy, even the details of the kingdom. There was a tetrarchy in that region. Such level of historicity, specificity and accuracy we can see in the Bible, setting the stage and placing Jesus in the right historical setting as to when it happened, which can be historically corroborated. Now we'll move on to examining the New Testament documents initially, and then the external evidence. Okay, so the New Testament documents were written in the 1st century, and the Gospels are the important sources of the life of Jesus, the incidents which took place in his life. And if you look at the evidences available as the manuscript, as Bibles, you need the Bible to be there in written form. And it's 2000 years. You are looking back into 2000 years to look for books which are written there. And they were written in papyri, leaves. Okay? And the fragments of leaves have been discovered. And I'll just show you the smallest one, which is the John Ryland fragment. So the John Ryland fragment is a small papyri, the oldest copy discovered of the New Testament, which is dated back to the first half of the 2nd century, around 125 AD. It contains the writings on the Gospel of John, chapter 18, verse 31 to 33. On one side, on the other side, it is John chapter 18, 37 to 38. So it is found in Egypt, and wherever it was written, it was found in Egypt, and that shows the spread as depicted in the Bible of the New Testament. And this is a very important fragment. Small therefore as it is, it suffices to prove that a manuscript of this gospel was circulating, of John was circulating presumably in Egypt, where it was found about the period AD 130 to 135, 150. allowing even a minimum time for the circulation of this Gospel of John from its place of origin. This will throw back the date of composition so near the traditional date in the last decade of the first century or even before that there is no longer any reason to question the validity of the traditional dating of the John to the last part of the first century. I'll just show you the John Rylands fragment. So this is the John Ryland fragment, the two sides, where we have John chapter 18 and from this fragment we can know that John is reliable and can be dated as the first later part of the first century. The content is also amazing. Okay, it is where the chief priest is questioning Jesus and asking him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" And Jesus is telling, "King, I am." That's the first word of the earliest document found. Okay, are you the king of the Jews? The answer is, "King, I am. For this I have been born and I come into the world so that I can testify to the truth. Everyone on the side of truth listens to me." And then Pilate said, "What is truth?" Then he went out to the Jews and said, "I find no fault in him." Okay, so that passage where Jesus says, yes, he is the king of the Jews, and that those who are on the side of truth will listen to him, are contained in this fragment from the John Rylands collection. So that is the papyrus, and there are a lot of papyrus, okay? So numerous number of papyrus have been found. The list of them goes on and on. So what is the papyrus? The New Testament papyrus is a copy of portion of New Testament made on papyrus or leaves. To date, 140 such papyrus are known. So papyrus use was seen in the earliest part of the first millennium in the 200s. After that, they started writing in books. So this elite status among New Testament manuscripts only began in the 20th century. The grouping was first introduced by Gregory, who assigned papyrus text the black letter beta, according to which these papyri are named beta 1, beta 2, etc. Before 1900, only 9 papyri manuscripts were known, and only one had been cited as a critical apparatus, Tischendorf. These 9 papyri were just single fragments, which considered of a single whole leaf. Okay, the discovery of the 12th century brought about the earliest New Testament manuscript fragment. Kenyon in 1912 knew 14 papyri. Ireland, in his first edition to his German book in 1963, enumerated 76 papyri. In 1989, there were 96 known papyri, and 2008, 124 papyri. As of 2021, there are 141 papyri known to academics. Among these, the most important is the Chester BT papyri, which contains the Gospel and Acts, beta 46, which contains Pauline epistles, and Beta 47, which also contains the book of Revelation. All of these are thought to date from sometime in the 3rd century. Okay, so also significant are the Bodmer papyri, which contain the Gospel of John and Gospel of Luke and John. These are more complete, allowing scholars to better examine the textual character. All of these manuscripts are simply New Testament texts, okay, which are discovered from different parts of the early Roman Empire, Egypt, Palestine, etc., Turkey. So they form the important historical evidence for the gospel. Okay, so now we have the papyri. Okay, that is the manuscript evidence, the early part. Then we have the later evidence, written full Bibles. And then we have the 2nd century reconstruction from the writings of the church fathers. And then we have the evidence from Bible itself, which is written in the 1st century about the history, geography, culture, politics of the time in which Jesus lived. And the temple, Jewish temple, which is a very important evidence, because the Jewish temple was destroyed in the year 70 AD by the Romans. And Jesus predicted that the Romans will come and destroy the temple. The temple will be destroyed, the Romans will come, that the temple will be destroyed and no stone will be left standing on another. So it was fulfilled and the temple was destroyed in 70 AD. And but the writings of the New Testament contains details of the temple, what happened in the temple. So if the temple had been destroyed and the writers were from a different century, they could not have reconstructed so accurately. Okay, even the name Jerusalem was changed by the Romans to a different Roman name. And the temple of God Jehovah was transformed into a temple of Jupiter. So later writers would not have known what existed there or what went on there, except those who lived during the time of Jesus and who are eyewitnesses. Peter claims are eyewitnesses of His Majesty. So that is a very strong evidence we can see. Next we move on to the writing, hostile witnesses, Jewish writers and Roman historians and Roman writers writing about Jesus and Christians, but they were hostile. They were not Christians. Okay, so we'll look into that evidence now. The first among them is Tacitus. Tacitus was a Roman senator, historian renowned for his last major work, the Annals, which provides a detailed account of Nero's reign, was the emperor, and the early Christians who were persecuted under the Nerovian persecution. Even Peter and Paul were executed by Nero. The Acts of the Apostles contains the execution of Andrew and James, the brother of Jesus, whereas it does not have the executions of martyrdoms of Peter and Paul. This is because it was written before their execution, before the destruction of the temple in 70 AD, and also before the reign of Nero in Rome. So early dating of Acts is thus possible. So what do we see in the writings of the Roman historian about Christians? It contains, number one, Nero's biography, next references to Christians, and they are considered as enemies, describe them as individuals hated for their shameful acts, and not noting their founder Christ, who was executed by Pontius Pilate. So very accurate historical details about the existence of Jesus and the death of Jesus are recorded in the annals of Tacitus. This corroborates exactly with the New Testament claim and writings and historicity, proving the historicity of the New Testament and the historicity of the incident which took place. So Christ and Christians are verified in the account of Tacitus and also in the account of Josephus, who was a Jewish, again an enemy of Christians or hostile witness. So the Roman hostile witness as well as Jewish hostile witness, talking about Jesus' existence, mentioning him in relation to people they are concerned with. Romans are concerned with their governor Pontius Pilate, and the Jews are concerned with execution of James, who was a leader of the Jewish church. Non-Christian sources. Both Tacitus and Josephus are non-Christian historians and provide independent historical corroboration of Jesus' life and death, reinforcing the New Testament accounts. So the writings of Josephus is called Testimonium Flavium because his name was Flavius Josephus. He wrote the book called the Jewish Wars, and it was written for a Roman audience, and it presents Judaism in positive light and does not mention about Jesus. But Josephus' other work, Jewish Antiquities, Josephus mentions about Jesus twice, providing significant historical context and affirming Jesus' existence historically in Second Temple Judea under Roman rule and affirming his execution. Both Tacitus and Josephus affirm the existence and the execution of Jesus under similar conditions, proving the historicity of the New Testament records. So how does Josephus quote Jesus? What does he say? He says in his account about the execution of James, the brother of Jesus, who was martyred by the Jewish authorities, which is also found in the book of Acts. So it corroborates that. And Josephus calls Jesus the Messiah. Okay, so James is the brother of Jesus. So the brother of Jesus who is called the Messiah. So Jesus is again the Christ or the Messiah. Josephus' detailed knowledge of first century Palestine and his priestly background lend credibility to his references to Jesus and his followers. This incidental reference to Jesus in the execution of James suggests authenticity as it serves a functional purpose rather than a Christian proclamation. Accordingly, these writings are without bias, writing on different subject other than Christianity and quoting Christianity and Christ Jesus just because they happen to be there in that setting. They are not the main object of the writing, but are cited by these writers writing about other things. So that is a very powerful historical evidence outside the Bible for Jesus and Christians. So they show the truth about the historical Jesus and his brother James and the manner of their death. Historical impact of Jesus' followers. These writers also write about the Christians. 1. The continuity of his followers. The movement initiated by Jesus continued to grow, spreading from Judea to Rome, as noted by Tacitus. And he is not happy about it. He is complaining. This started we finished him off in Jerusalem. Our governor was there, but now it has spread all the way to Rome. So that is his complaint. Josephus acknowledges the persistence of Christian movement throughout the first century. Despite opposition, there was strong opposition, but the movement went on spreading. No one could stop the spread of Christianity in Rome, and both the Jewish as well as the Romans were complaining in their writings. So we can see the unchallenged existence of Jesus, that he is a historical figure who existed, that he lived in under Pontius Pilate reigned territories of Judea, Galilee, and also that he died under Pontius Pilate and his brother died after him and during the time, which is recorded in Acts as well as by Josephus. What is significance is that none of the ancient sources deny Jesus or first century Christianity as some modern secular scholars want to deny, called Jesus mythicists or Jesus mythers. These people want to deny the existence of Jesus, and they attribute it to the writings of 4th century. But that is totally debunked and defeated by this list of evidence and reasoning. So non-denial significance. So the lack of denial from various ancient sources, including those critical of Christianity, adds weight to the historical evidence of Jesus' existence. None of them say there is no one called Jesus, but these guys are celebrating him. No, there was nothing like this. There was someone, and he lived in that region, and he had a brother, and he was killed, and his brother was killed, and all those things are there. And the movement or the Christianity, how it continued and flourished and has even come to Rome. That is the complaint of the Roman historian. So we have understood this important aspect of external evidence or non-biblical evidence in secular history, called historical evidence for Jesus. And we have seen that the evidence is very strong, and there is no need to doubt the existence of the Lord, his death and resurrection. Moreover, as I will discuss later, there is non-biblical recordings and biblical recordings of the Christian practices. What were they doing in the first century? Were they worshipping Jesus as God? Were they singing praises to him? Were they using his name to pray? Were they using his name to drive out demons? All these things. And we will see how it all fits into the picture as the evidence grows, and how Christianity is being practiced the same way for 2000 years. Thank you for joining. May God bless you and lead you.